I was 23 when I landed in Dubai, and the heat that hit me on the tarmac was nothing compared to the cold shock of the city's scale. I had come from Nairobi, armed with fierce determination and a small, worn suitcase, ready to spend years cleaning the floors of the wealthy. My name is Selena Mwangi, and my purpose was simple: duty. I was here for my family. My first 3 months were defined by the contrast between my reality and the world I moved through like a ghost. I worked in a towering high-rise, a monument of glass and gold. The lobby was polished marble that reflected the chandeliers like a million tiny suns. Every morning, I put on the standard gray uniform, grabbed my mop bucket, and became utterly invisible. People walked past me, talking into their phones, sipping expensive coffee, leaving trails of careless mess. I remember one day, a powerful executive. I knew him only by the way his assistant scrambled when he spoke, spilled an entire cup of black coffee across a white Persian rug. He didn't pause his conversation, just stepped over the spreading stain and continued walking. My heart burned. I knelt down and scrubbed until the stain was gone, my hands raw from the cleaning solution. In that moment, I felt the deepest sense of injustice, but I maintained my composure. I focused on the shine of the marble. They could erase my presence, but they could not erase my spirit. I may be invisible, I affirmed internally, but I am not nothing. This resilience was my shield, but it was also my chain. I never looked up, never spoke unless spoken to, and never lingered. I was a tool meant only to restore order and disappear. I was prepared for years of this. I was prepared for years of silence. Then came the change. My supervisor, a weary man named Mr. Hassan, pulled me aside one evening. "Selena," he said, his voice low, "you are meticulous. You are being assigned the top floor, the private executive wing. The Sheikh's family uses it, but rarely. Late night shift only. No mistakes." The top floor, the 50th floor. It was where the true power resided, a sanctuary of wealth and tradition far removed from the busy corporate world below. The special elevator was silent, cushioned, lined with dark wood and brass. As I ascended, the normal hum of the building faded away. When the doors opened, I stepped into a world of intense, almost suffocating luxury. The air was cool, scented faintly with oud and sandalwood. The vast windows offered a breathtaking view of Dubai at night, a tapestry of lights stretching to the horizon, a glittering promise of a life I could never touch. I felt utterly separated from the life I knew, both in Nairobi and even in the city below. The suite was more like a private residence than an office. There was an antique desk made of dark, heavy wood, traditional Arabic calligraphy on the walls, and a small, richly decorated study tucked away. It spoke of immense history and power. I began my work, my movements cautious and slow, terrified of disturbing the perfect order. The silence was deafening. It was during my second week on the floor that I caught the fleeting reflection. I was polishing the glass wall separating the main office from the study when I saw it. A tall, imposing figure quickly exiting the study door, dressed in the traditional white thobe. It was too quick to be sure, but I knew instantly who it was. Sheikh Tariq bin Khalid Al Maktoum. I ducked behind my cleaning trolley, my heart hammering against my ribs, certain he hadn't seen the cleaning girl. I realized then that this was not just an empty office. Sheikh Tariq was often there, working late into the night, unpredictable in his schedule. The risk of discovery, of breaking the strict boundaries between my world and his, had just increased tenfold. If you want to know how this story unfolds, whether love was truly waiting in this hidden world or just more heartbreak, subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. The tension of working in his presence was a constant, low-grade fever. I moved with the precision of a dancer, scrubbing every surface clean, trying to leave no trace of my existence. But the work was grueling. The cleaning solutions were harsh, and the long shifts took their toll. One night, a painful, deep blister formed on my palm, cracking and bleeding slightly as I wrung out the mop. I taped it up quickly with a piece of medical tape I carried, refusing to stop. Stopping meant losing the job. Losing the job meant failing my sister, Pendo, who was counting on the money for her school fees. I was scrubbing the intricate patterns of a small side table when I overheard a distant voice coming from the speaker on the Sheikh's desk. A frustrated, dismissive tone directed at someone clearly subservient. "Just handle it. I don't care how. It's your problem, not mine." The words were not for me, but they reinforced the brutal reality. We were interchangeable, disposable. I needed a moment to breathe, to remember why I was enduring this silent pain. I retreated to a corner of the Sheikh's personal library, a vast room filled with leather-bound books. I quickly pulled out the small, faded photograph I carried, Pendo, smiling in her school uniform. I kissed the picture, whispering a prayer in Swahili, drawing strength from her innocent hope. Just as I tucked the photo back into my apron pocket, disaster struck. My elbow hit a small antique ink pot, a beautiful, heavy bronze piece, sending it crashing to the marble floor. Black ink splattered everywhere. Panic seized me. The cost of this item, the sheer disrespect of the mess, the consequence of my carelessness, it flashed through my mind like lightning. I scrambled, grabbing every cloth I had, cleaning frantically until the marble was spotless and the ink pot was back in place, seemingly unharmed. I was shaking, terrified that the smell of the cleaning solvent would betray me. I ran out of the library and didn't stop until I was down the service elevator. It wasn't until I reached the locker room that I realized my apron was empty. In my haste and panic, I had left Pendo's photograph on the Sheikh's desk. If this moment of struggle and quiet dedication touched your heart, leave a like. It tells me these stories matter to you. I spent a sleepless morning agonizing over the missing photo. It was more than just a picture. It was the entire reason I was there. I knew I had to go back and retrieve it, even if it meant facing the Sheikh's wrath. The next evening, I returned to the 50th floor, my stomach tight with dread. As I approached the main office, I saw him. Sheikh Tariq was standing by his desk, dressed in a pristine white thobe, looking out at the glittering city. But he wasn't looking at the view. He was looking at the small, faded photograph of Pendo held delicately between his thumb and forefinger. I stopped breathing. "Selina Mwangi," he said, without turning around. His voice was deep, reserved, but surprisingly soft. It was the first time I had ever heard my full name spoken by someone of his stature, and it sounded alien and powerful. I stammered an apology, rushing forward to take the photo. "I am so sorry, sir. I was careless. He turned then, and I saw his face clearly for the first time. His eyes were dark and discerning, but they held no anger, only a quiet curiosity. He didn't hand me the photo immediately. "She has a beautiful smile," he observed, looking at the picture again. "Who is she?" I explained, my voice barely a whisper, that she was my younger sister, Pendo, and that everything I did, the long hours, the isolation, the scrubbing, was for her future. I braced myself for the inevitable lecture about focus and discipline. Instead, he simply nodded, his gaze holding mine. "Duty is a heavy burden," he said, finally placing the photograph gently into my outstretched hand. "But duty does not erase destiny, Selina. You are seen here." His words struck me like a physical blow. dismantling the wall of invisibility I had built around myself. He wasn't accusing me of a mistake. He was acknowledging my humanity. He saw past the uniform, past the mop, and into the core of my purpose. It was terrifying and intoxicating all at once. He paused, then asked the question that sealed my fate. Tell me, Selena Mwangi, what is the destiny you truly desire for yourself, beyond your duty to Pendo? Tell me in the comments, would you have trusted him at this point, or would you have feared a trap? I'd love to hear your thoughts. That question about my destiny began our secret life. It wasn't sudden. It was a slow, cautious unfolding, a delicate dance around the immense cultural gulf that separated us. We established a routine. After my cleaning shift was technically over, I would linger in the quiet library. He would dismiss his remaining staff and join me. He never touched me, never pressured me, but he talked to me. He learned about the vibrant chaos of Nairobi, the warmth of my mother's kitchen, and the dreams I held for Pendo. I, in turn, learned about the immense, suffocating weight of his family legacy, the expectations, the political maneuvering, the lack of true freedom that came with his title. He was the Sheikh, the powerful Tariq bin Khalid Al Maktoum, yet he confessed that he often felt trapped by the gold and marble that surrounded him. He found solace in the quiet library, and now, strangely, in my presence. One evening, as I was describing a complex problem I was trying to solve back home related to Pendo's school funding, he listened intently. When I finished, he didn't offer money, which I would have refused. Instead, he placed a small, elegant leather-bound notebook on the antique desk. "For your thoughts, Selena," he said. "They are too valuable to be lost. Write them down. Your mind is sharp. It deserves respect." It was the first gift acknowledging my intellect, not my labor. This gesture, combined with the shared secrets and the moments of genuine, easy laughter, like when I accidentally mispronounced a complex Arabic word for wisdom and he corrected me with a smile, deepened the connection irrevocably. But the risk was always present, a sharp edge under the velvet glove of our intimacy. One night, we were discussing his upcoming business trip when we heard the distinct sound of footsteps approaching the library door, much later than anyone should be on the floor. Tariq immediately pulled me behind a heavy stack of historical texts, pressing himself close against the wall. A distant cousin, unexpectedly staying late, walked past the open door, talking loudly into his phone. We froze, barely breathing, the scent of Tariq's expensive cologne filling my senses. In the tight space, my hand brushed against his arm. The jolt of electricity was intense, a sudden, powerful awareness of the forbidden nature of our proximity. When the footsteps faded, we slowly stepped apart, both pale, both acutely aware that we were playing a dangerous game. The close call confirmed the danger, and Tariq realized the relationship must either end immediately or become something much more serious, defying tradition entirely. For those who want more, deeper stories, early access, and exclusive content, consider becoming a channel member, join our community, and support these journeys. The next few days were shadowed by the threat of discovery. Tariq was withdrawn, wrestling with his duty. I knew what was coming before he spoke it. He met me late one evening, his face etched with strain. "My family is pushing, Selena. A formal announcement is expected next week. An engagement to a woman of suitable status." The words were like a cold wave washing over the warmth we had built. I felt the familiar pull of duty, the need to protect him from the consequences of choosing me. "Then let me go, Tariq," I whispered, using his first name for the first time without a title. "Let me go back to Nairobi. It's safer for both of us." But the choice was already being taken out of our hands. His mother, Sheikh, a woman of formidable reputation and iron will, had noticed his unusual late hours and his sudden detachment from family obligations. While she hadn't seen us together, she had strong suspicions. She demanded an immediate meeting with my supervisor, citing inappropriate distraction and insisting I be fired and deported immediately. I was cleaning the main conference room when Mr. Hassan, terrified and shaking, told me to pack my things. 2 security guards were already waiting by the service elevator. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. This was it, the consequence I had always feared. But as the guards began to escort me across the massive, echoing lobby toward the exit, a figure appeared, striding quickly toward us. It was Tariq. He was in full traditional dress, looking every bit the powerful Sheikh, but his expression was resolute. He stopped the guards with a single sharp word in Arabic. Then, in front of several startled staff members and executives, he reached out and took my hand. His touch was firm, possessive, and utterly defiant. He looked directly at one of the senior family members who had rushed down to witness the drama, and his voice carried across the marble hall. "I will not be forced into a marriage," he declared, his voice ringing with authority. "And Selina Mwangi is under my protection now." The silence that followed was heavier than any gold or marble in that building. Tariq had made his choice public, sacrificing his immediate standing for me. There's so much more to stories like these, the complex cultural dynamics, the heartbreak, and the ultimate triumph. Check the pinned comment for a special collection I've put together for you. Tariq's decision had immediate, sharp consequences. He was forced to sacrifice his residency at the family palace and temporarily stepped away from his most visible public duties. We left the high-rise tower that night, not for the palace, but for a beautiful, quiet residence he owned in a more discreet part of Dubai, less extravagant, but infinitely more ours. I was shocked by the quiet dignity of our new life. There were no ghosts of the office tower here. We were simply Tariq and Selina. He explained the political fallout. The family was furious. Sheikh Hessa was refusing his calls, but he held my hand and reaffirmed his peace. "They fear the loss of control, Selina. They fear what they cannot understand. But I chose my destiny, not my duty, and I have found true peace." In turn, I found my agency. I didn't return to cleaning, but I didn't sit idle either. I helped him organize his independent business affairs using the sharp mind he had first acknowledged with the leather notebook. More importantly, I offered him genuine emotional support, reminding him that his worth was not tied to his title or his family's approval. He was no longer just the Sheikh. He was a man capable of profound sacrifice. Our relationship, forged in the fire of that public confrontation, deepened into an unbreakable partnership. And then, one quiet evening, as we were sharing a simple meal together, he looked at me with that rare, genuine smile that reached his eyes. "Selina," he said, taking my hand across the table, "I defied them to keep you by my side. Now, I want to defy them completely. Will you be my wife? Not just my partner, but my wife, legally and spiritually." It was the final step in defying tradition for love. I accepted without hesitation. Creating these stories takes time and heart. I pour everything into sharing these journeys, the pain, the hope, the transformation. If this one moved you, you can support the channel by clicking the Super Thanks button below. Every bit helps me bring more stories to life. Our marriage, quiet and deeply personal, cemented our independence. Free from the constant pressure of the palace, we discovered a true, deep intimacy that went far beyond the excitement of a forbidden romance. I finally felt safe enough to speak about my past without shame. Not just the difficulty of my upbringing, but the quiet ambition I had always harbored. Tariq listened, never judging, only supporting. He saw the strength required to leave everything behind for a promise of a better future. With his encouragement, I started a small cultural initiative connecting Kenyan craftswomen with buyers in the Gulf, giving me a sense of purpose that transcended my identity as a wife. I looked in the mirror one morning and realized I no longer felt like I was wearing a uniform. My dignity was inherent, not something I had to earn with a mop. Tariq, meanwhile, was happier than I had ever seen him. He admitted that while he had lost some of the family's financial resources, he had gained clarity and true self-respect. The first crack in the family opposition came subtly. One afternoon, a small, beautifully wrapped package arrived. Inside was an exquisite piece of silk embroidery, a traditional gift from Tariq's younger sister, Sheikh Dana. It was a silent, powerful acknowledgement that we were not alone. Then came the realization that sealed our destiny. I was pregnant. The news was overwhelming, creating a new bridge, or perhaps the final, most difficult hurdle, to his family. This was not just about Tariq's choice anymore. It was about the continuation of the Al Maktoum line. Don't forget to check the pinned comment for more stories like this one, tales of destiny and devotion. I stood by the window of our private home, looking out at the city lights. Just a year ago, I was the tired girl in the gray uniform, polishing the marble of the 50th floor, desperately trying to keep my head down and my presence erased. I remembered the burning sensation of the cleaning chemicals on my blistered hand. I remembered the fear of the ink spill. Now, I looked at my reflection, a woman carrying Tariq's child, respected, cherished, and finding a voice I never knew I possessed. The transformation was complete, visible in the lightness of my spirit and the confidence in my stance. Tariq's devotion only grew stronger as he prepared to become a father. He was protective, tender, and deeply proud. He had chosen me, and now he was choosing our future. The final reconciliation came not through negotiation, but through nature. Sheikha Hessa, Tariq's mother, finally arrived at our private home. She did not come in anger. She came because she knew she would be a grandmother. The tension in the room was palpable, but she looked at me, not with contempt, but with a weary, assessing gaze. She saw the love between her son and me, and she saw the promise of the future. "You have made my son happy, Selena," she said, her voice surprisingly soft, "and you are carrying the next generation of our family." It was not a full embrace, but it was acceptance. She placed a small, intricately carved silver box in my hands, a family heirloom, generations old, symbolizing her grudging but powerful acknowledgement of my new status. I realized then that I had won, not by fighting tradition, but by showing Tariq that true strength lay in choosing love over obligation. I came here defined by duty, but Tariq taught me that destiny is what you fight for, not what you wait for. My journey from the cleaning uniform to the cherished wife of a powerful sheikh was complete. Thank you for being here, for listening, for feeling with me through this journey of love and tradition. If you'd like to support more stories, the Super Thanks button is just below. We often sit together on our balcony, looking out over the glittering expanse of Dubai. It is no longer a symbol of separation, but of our shared home, a city where a Kenyan girl and an Emirati sheikh built a life together against all odds. The greatest luxury I found here was not the wealth, the gold, or the marble. It was the love that saw past the uniform, the recognition that my worth was intrinsic, and the freedom to finally choose my own path. I sent a final, hopeful message home to Pendo, not just with money, but with a story. A story of strength, resilience, and the possibility of finding true partnership in the most unexpected places. I arrived to clean offices, desperate and invisible, but I stayed to build a life respected and deeply loved. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. More powerful stories are coming soon. Thank you for being part of this journey.